Today I'm going to try to show you how I do my modified pin stitch. I feel like it's more secure than most of the pin stitches that I've seen, and I'll tell you that I don't have my magnifying light while I'm trying to make this video, and so this is hard for me to see. So hopefully it'll make sense to you. But the first thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out where you're going to start the stitch. And you're going to have the top left, the top right, the bottom right, the bottom left. And so then, this is for linen, you're going to have that stitch in the middle, that one hole in the middle. And so you're going to go through there from the top to the bottom and leave a rather long tail. It doesn't have to be as long as I'm making it right now. I have a puppy and I can hear him making all kind of racket in the background. I'm sorry. So you go down through that center stitch and you come up where the top right stitch would come up just to make a normal stitch. Then you go back through that center stitch and try to pierce that thread. And since I can't really see what I'm doing, I'm kind of stabbing in the dark. And then you check it, and I did pierce it, so it's secure. Then I come down and I do what would be the bottom left leg of that stitch. Come up like I normally would, and again I go through that center stitch and try to pierce that thread again. And see, it's pretty secure now. And in a normal pin stitch, you would cut really close to that thread. You would just cut that off right there, and that would be pretty much all you would do. But the extra little part that I do is I come back up through that center stitch, that top right stitch, and then I loop that tail. I'm not sure you saw that because of my finger. Come up through that bottom stitch from the back to the front. Then I wrap that tail with that thread. Then I go back down through that same stitch. And once I've done that, I can just kind of give it a little tug, and that tail comes through, and I can pull it and get it to the back side. And then as I'm making the rest of my stitches, I can catch that tail to secure it, stitch over it. And again, I really am struggling. I'm using 32 count, thinking that would make it easier, but I'm not sure that it does. I'm not sure I can see what I'm doing. So these stitches may not be so perfect. But then let's see, I can tell that one's not right, but getting it out might make it a little more, make it harder. Oh, got it out. Anyway, as you're making the rest of your stitches, I'm just gonna, well, obviously I've turned my work because my legs aren't going the right way. But another thing that I saw on Facebook this morning, someone was asking how to make your stitches lay straight. Dang, this is hard when I can't see. Normally I am doing the sewing stitch, and so I'm just going to switch back over to this other side, but let me go back and make a couple more stitches here, so I can finish one thing before I start something else. Oh great, now my husband's going to cut the grass. So as you make a few stitches, and as you do, and as you catch that thread in the back, you can cut it after you're secure where it is, or you can just leave it back there and get it all sewn into something else and then cut it. But can you see how I've caught those stitches back there? And so I can keep going, or I can let some other stitches come, or I can just cut it right there and get it out of the way. But I feel like that's more secure. But then on Facebook this morning, I saw someone ask about how to make your stitches lie flat. Their thread was lying crooked. And you see, as you're doing a stitch, you know, I was not athletic in school, but whenever I can remember in high school, well, I was never athletic, school or not school, but in high school when we'd be doing basketball, and the PE coach would say, follow through. It's the follow through that matters, and that didn't mean a lot to me in basketball, but the follow through is what matters on these stitches. So if you're making a stitch and you've got your thread and it's coming over, and see how it's just laying there kind of wonky as it comes in, then it's going to likely be wonky as it lays down. But if you kind of help guide it as it's coming in, see at this point, you see how it's laying, then I can take it and hold it a little bit where I want it to be. and have it straight as it lays down and not flopping as it lays down, and then you're pulling it straight instead of pulling it floppy. Make sense? Probably not. I'll just make a few more. See, at this point, the stitch, I'm not sure if it's the floss or the direction I'm going with the floss, but sometimes the stitches just lay perfectly straight as they're coming in, and sometimes they're just like, see, that one's going to lay pretty straight. Let's see, if going the other direction, we end it with a crooked stitch. That one's fairly straight. But even like the pin stitch, as I'm talking about it, it sounds like, oh, that's too many steps. But it really, once you start doing it, you realize that it's really not. It just goes really quick, and it's very secure. And then when I'm ending, I rarely do the pin stitch. I can almost always find something that I can go back through and weave my stitches in. So if I was going to end this one right here, can you see, I think the stitches lay fairly flat. So if I was going to weave this one in, I would probably just do something like this on the back. Go back through a couple of times and sometimes the stitches on the back will look like X's, and sometimes they just look like two lines, depending on if I'm doing the crosses by hand or if I'm doing the sewing method. See, at this point, I can trim. I can cut that thread, and I can cut the tail off of where I started that pin stitch. And there's, let's see if I can get a focused picture of my stitches. I don't know if that helps, but we can see. Good luck with it, and you can always ask questions on any of the Facebook groups. There are a lot of experienced stitchers out there with a lot of great knowledge they're willing to share. Okay, thanks for watching.